peace, and blessings. Welcome to Mental Wellness for the Culture. I am your host, Belinda Gordon Battle, clinical therapist and owner of BGB Counseling Services located in Miami and providing virtual services worldwide. Today is our opportunity to interact and engage in the path to mental wellness as a significant and essential part of our culture. This season on Mental Wellness for the Culture, I plan to speak to experts from our culture about creating and maintaining life balance, surviving trauma and domestic violence, the value of sisterhood and brotherhood, self care, the aging process, and Black love. We are talking about mental wellness for the culture. It's October. We acknowledge World Mental Health Day on October the 10th, and throughout the month, we acknowledge breast cancer survivors and speak about breast cancer awareness. Today, I have an amazing survivor of breast cancer who's merged the topics of breast cancer and mental wellness to share with us at Mental Wellness for the Culture. I'd like to introduce to you Alicia Sherman Anderson, a breast cancer survivor, a mother, a daughter, a sister friend, as well as the president and CEO of ASA and Associates, a financial consulting group. Thank you, Alicia, for being here and taking a few minutes to speak to us. How are you today?
I am absolutely fabulous.
Excellent, excellent. I have seen you present on financial literacy. I have seen you work in the community with various organizations providing community service. I have seen you be a giver throughout everything you've experienced in your life. I did not know that you were going through cancer. Do you mind talking to our audience about your history and what's going on with you as far as cancer right now?
So I was diagnosed with HER2 positive breast cancer in November of 2018. HER2 positive stands for human epidermal growth factor receptor, which simply means that I possessed a protein in my blood that promoted the growth of cancer cells. So it was an extremely aggressive form of breast cancer, and they needed to do multiple things to ensure my continued longevity in my life. Most people in their breast cancer treatments, they usually do one, maybe two of three things. Mm-hmm. So there's usually chemotherapy, which everyone is for the most part aware of. There's radiation as well. And then there is a mastectomy or a lumpectomy, meaning they either remove your breast or a portion of your breast where the cancer is. Mm-hmm. Because my form of breast cancer was so aggressive, I unfortunately had to do all three, which is not very usual, but this is what they recommended for me. So it was tough. It was really tough. But one of my doctors said to me when I first got diagnosed, he said, fit cancer into your life. Do not fit your life into cancer. He's like, everything that you do with your life, continue to do, live out loud, travel, have fun, do what you want to do, but then just put a little piece of time aside for cancer. And the mistake that I think a lot of people make is cancer becomes so overwhelming, because it is the process, the battling of it, the things that the chemotherapy, the radiation, all of that is very much overwhelming. But the key is to not let it consume you.
Right.
Keep a positive attitude. So I determined early on, I said, well, I will put the physical piece of battling this breast cancer into my doctor's hands.
I like that. I hear you when you speak about the physical aspects of cancer and cancer treatment, and you realizing that you were going to have at least 3 different procedures done to your body a body that you had taken care of for years and you wanted to make sure was always in the best of health. And you separated that from the mental experience, the emotional experience. Talk to me a little bit about that mindset.
Well, like I was saying, I determined that my doctors, I would put totally in their hands the physical healing of me, but I knew that I needed to be totally responsible, fully responsible for the mental piece of my healing. So I did things such as, well, one of the biggest things I had to do was protect my peace.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that did not bring me peace, I could not deal with during that period of time. And I was being treated for the breast cancer for an entire year.
Mm-hmm.
So you think day in and day out, some months, every day I was at the cancer center. Some months it's every week. It was an entire year, month, day after day, month after month. So I had to focus really on my mental piece.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the way that you heal and the way that you battle cancer has a lot to do with how you feel. So I'll give you an example. The cancer center had this huge room with all of these chairs in it.
Mm-hmm.
And each, everyone would come in and sit down in the chair, and that's where you would receive your chemotherapy. I had a private room, but I had to walk through the main room where everyone was to get to my private room. And every time I walked through, I was taken aback because they literally looked like death.
Mm-hmm.
They had no hair. They looked tired, down, like they couldn't even function. And it would weigh heavy on my spirit. And then I think at the same time, they would see me come walking through the room looking like, well, what's she doing here? Right. And my thing is, I'm doing the same thing you're doing. We have the same doctors, we're in the same facility, but I'm doing it differently.
But the mindset that you were carrying in order to battle cancer was different. It was elevated. It was completely a different game plan. And I think that's where the mental wellness piece comes into play, is that you made a decision to protect your peace. Can you tell us, what did that look like day to day? What did you have to do? What did you say to yourself to say, every day I'm going to protect my peace? I'm going to do this, this, and this. What were those three things?
Okay, I'll say that, first of all, when I got diagnosed, I gave myself that day to kind of, had a few tears and wallow in the, woe is me and why me. Right. And I begin to pray on that. My faith is very important to me. And I begin to pray on it, asking God, why me? I feel like I live a pretty healthy life. I'm not a big drinker. I don't smoke. Mm-hmm. So, how did I get this? Why do I have to walk this journey, this path? And clear as day, I felt God in my spirit tell me, listen, I have protected you through everything else in your life that other folks did not survive. Why do you think that I'm not going to protect you during this? And at that moment, I said, okay, I got this. Right. And the next day I called my doctor and I literally said, how are we kicking cancer's butt? Mm-hmm. This is, I'm fighting. I'm not going to lay down and die. Some people have that mind frame. I'm like, no, I'm not. God told me I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. What do we need to do?
Oh, I love that. I love that spirit. Protect my peace. Go back to your faith and make sure that you reconnect and have that connection with God, and that fighter's mindset, that fighter's mentality, that this is not me laying down. This is me getting up. This is me standing
absolutely. And part of it also was, what are my options? What can I do? So one of the things that I chose to do, my oncologist recommended this because I feel like how we see ourselves has a lot to do with how we feel emotionally. And so my oncologist recommended that I do this treatment called a cooling cap. Mm-hmm. And what that was
one more time, Alicia, what's the name of it again?
It's a cooling cap.
Cooling cap.
Okay. Yes. And so what that does is I would, put this on right before every time I would do chemotherapy, and it would protect my hair, basically to make sure that I didn't lose my hair. Right. Now, I did eventually lose like my eyebrows and eyelashes, but they grew back. But as far as the hair on my head, you know, that, and I felt like if I looked at myself in the mirror every day with no hair, completely bald and everything, I would be defeated. I would feel defeated, right. You know, and that goes back to the mental piece. How, you know, how we handle mentally is how we go through physically. Mm-hmm. And so I said, hey, I'm willing to try it. The thing about it is a lot of people aren't even aware that technology exists. Because when I was telling people, you know, as people saw me throughout that time while I was going through that, they were like, yes. Yeah, you saw me. They were like, you don't look like you're battling breast cancer. And I'm like, yeah, I am. Mm-hmm. And this is how I'm doing it. You do it your way, I'm doing it my way. My mother said, never look like what you're going through. So I'm like, okay, what we going to do here? Yes. And it was very helpful. Like I said, a lot of people are not aware of it. That's number one. Number two, it's very expensive. Right. Treatment is not covered under your health insurance. Mm-hmm. So, you know, thankfully I could afford it. And then number three, it is an extremely painful process. Right. Right. And that will get you down too. But I had a great team of doctors that said, don't worry about the pain. Don't worry about this physical. We got this. You just work on you. Yes. So
I think when I hear you talk about the cooling cap and how you went back to the things your mother had taught you, things that were already embedded in your foundation, how you can visualize what you want your life to look like, how you want to look, no matter what process you're going through. That reminds me of how we as a community, we as individuals want to make sure our mental wellness is intact. And I think that's so important for people to make that connection. If you are going through something, if you're battling something, you can visualize, you can decide what it will look like, how you will present in the world. And that can change the physical nature of whatever you are going through. I really appreciate you for sharing that tidbit. I want to ask you, because I hear you talking about your doctors, but I also know that in our communities, sometimes we don't know what to do to help someone that has cancer. Sometimes you'll see people pull away, and then sometimes you'll see people go 100%, 1,000% in, and that's not always what's needed. Can you share one or two things that were helpful to you that came from the community that helped you become well again?
Okay, well, first of all, when you go back to us as a community and not knowing what to do and how to do, my thought process was I knew that I had a cousin that was also battling breast cancer. So I reached out to her to find out, you know, like, hey, because she was further along in the process. Hey, what am I going to experience? You know, I'm reaching out to family members that, you know, no one that I knew of other than her was battling breast cancer. So I was like, what? And she began to tell me her process. And I realized very quickly on that I could not lean on her as a support. It wasn't, I don't think it was on purpose, but literally every single time I spoke with her, my spirit was disturbed. I could be upbeat, happy. Mm-hmm. I would speak to her and all of a sudden I'm terrified. Oh my God, this is, you know, what's going to happen. And she would say things, and I know it wasn't like malicious or anything, but she would say things like, hey, yeah, I just lost the last patch of my hair. Has your hair started falling out yet? Or, hey, you know, my nails turned black and fell off. Have your nails turned black? And I would be like, oh my God, that's what's going to happen next? You know, it was. And I realized also that her journey was her journey and my journey was my journey. And I had determined I was going to do it differently. I was not going to do it the same way she was. So in protecting my peace, I had to stop talking to her as often.
Absolutely.
I spoke to another doctor who wasn't my doctor, but who I was familiar with from my church, who took care of cancer patients. And she would say to me, I said, well, hey, you know, I'm going to try the cooling cap thing. And she says, well, her thing was, you might want to invest in a good wig. And I was like, what do you mean? Right. And she was like, because several of my patients, they couldn't handle the pain. You know, after 2 or 3 times, they were like, no, and they just gave up. And I was like, that's not what's going to happen. I'm determined. This is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So it really, I had to stop talking to certain people.
Right.
But then you had family members and my sorority sisters that said, hey, what is it that you need? What can we do? And they were so supportive. They came, they would take me to and from my doctor's appointments every week. They would, my church family, they would bring food to me when I was too weak or in too much pain to even feed myself. I had family members that flew out from, other parts of the country just to be there and help me through it. And to be honest with you, I appreciated it. I did, but I also continued to work. Through this whole process. I would I called it chemo Tuesdays. I would go to chemo on Tuesdays. And by Wednesday, I'm back in the office. On most Thursdays, I was on a plane, traveling, going somewhere, doing something. But I really, really appreciate my community here in Miami because I don't have family here in Miami. That my church family and my sorority really just kind of gathered around and took care of me. And what's also interesting is a lot of people didn't know because I didn't tell anyone. There was a handful of people that knew that I told, but I didn't tell anyone because for me, this was a very personal journey. It was very personal. No one's business. They didn't need to know.
Right.
But then I went to a breast cancer awareness event that year, and I saw people sharing their stories, and I realized that this wasn't even about me.
Right.
This was about me showing people that there was another way to do breast cancer.
Absolutely. And I have seen you demonstrate that over and over and over again. And it's meaningful every time you do it. I see someone able to take that information and actually utilize it. What I learned from you today is that when you protect your peace, there's also a need to be intuitive and listen to your gut. When you said, this is my cousin, we are having the same experience, but we have a different journey. And it's okay for me to allow you to have yours and for me to have mine. I heard you say that even with your doctor, sometimes when we go to the doctor, we say, oh, that's the professional. Whatever he or she says, that's the final word. But I hear you advocating for yourself, saying that my mental wellness, my physical wellness is my responsibility, and I can advocate for myself. And I think that is essential that we share that message with our community to remind them that they can advocate for themselves, even when they're not at their best of health. I love that. One of the things I want to hear from you, Alicia, is about when you have someone come up to you and actually say, what do you need? What does that do to you emotionally, mentally, when you're in that state? Because from what I know of you, you are a strong woman. You rarely need anyone else to do something for you. So if I say to you when you were going through cancer, what do you need? What would that have done for you?
Well, I had people come up to me and ask me that, and my response was nothing. I'm good. That's what even when I wasn't good, no, I'm good. No, I don't need anything. When I did need things, I said, I don't need anything. It was the people in my life that didn't come up to me and said, what do you need? They came up to me and said, listen, I know you got a doctor's appointment next week. I'm coming to pick you up. What time is it? They basically told me what they were going to do. Hey, I know you're probably hungry. I'm going to drop off some food. I mean, for like you said, someone like me, my personality, I'm strong. I don't ask people for any help for anything. It was those folks that just stood up and said, hey, I got you. And I'm going to provide, what I think you need. And it was exactly what I needed.
Absolutely. And when we talk about mental wellness for the culture, that's so important to take into consideration, is that when we see someone is in need or something needs to be done in our community, sometimes you can ask the question, but you always are supposed to complete your destiny. You're always supposed to complete your duty, which is let me provide. Now, she can reject it later on if she wants to, but let me do what I have to do to support the person that's going through cancer or any issue right now. So thank you for saying that. That's important for us to remember in our community.
Yeah, even if someone tells you, if they say, hey, they're going through something, and you say, hey, what can I do to help you? Oh, no, yeah, you don't have to do anything. I'm fine. still please continue. Just think about what, if you were in their shoes, what you might need, and just offer that. Not have them try to figure out, oh, how you can help me. Just offer what you would need if you were in that situation.
That same situation. That's good advice, because we need to know what to do in our community. Sometimes we just don't know. And so hearing it from you will go a long way. Okay, I'm going to take you down a little bit of a different path, because as a clinician, as a clinical therapist, I believe humor is essential. It's a part of everything that we do. It's a part of us being well in our community. Please share the funniest thing that has occurred to you, or you have seen and witnessed through this cancer journey.
Funny. I
No
can't think
names. Don't share any names.
look, I can't think of anything totally humorous.
That made you chuckle and just like, what is that?
I do know that when I went in for the surgery to remove the cancer out of my breast, the doctors informed me that said, look, if we go in and we see that it is spread, then we're going to take both of your breasts. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And I've seen pictures and I've been terrified of that.
Yeah.
So I say that the moment I woke up from surgery, I didn't even open my eyes. I just instantly started feeling, and I was like, whew, okay, the girls are still there.
Right. Still there. Instantly, you woke up.
And prior to that, when speaking with my surgeon, I was like, hey, so am I going to need, some sort of enhancements or something once you get done? And my daughter loves to tell the story because we both did kind of chuckle. My surgeon said to me, he said, ma'am, your breasts are rather large. I'm just going to move some stuff around. You'll be okay. I was like, oh, okay.
That's
all right.
That part.
But that's where I guess we can find humor in it, because I was very adamant about what I looked like again, know.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, again, how you see yourself in the mirror affects how you feel mentally. You may feel, I didn't feel pretty, at the time, while I was going through it. I didn't feel, photogenic. I didn't want to take pictures and things like that. But I had to remember, as my doctor said, live your life, be the same person you were before, during, and after.
Right.
And so I worked very hard on doing that.
That leads me to the last question I want to say to you. What has changed about you now that you have survived cancer?
I say a couple of things. One is, prior to that, I wasn't big on protecting my peace. I am so huge on that. Now, if you almost look like you got an issue, some drama, some problems, and you try to bring them my way or bring in negativity, I'm like, okay, great, that's adorable, and I'm gonna move on. Yeah. I'm very, very adamant about that. It also helped me develop empathy. I don't think I had that before. Mm-hmm. And now when I see people going through things such as cancer, I know what it is. I can put myself in their shoes, and I can offer the assistance that I think they may need, that because this is what I needed, or this is what worked for me. Mm-hmm. It allowed me to just be able to be there for other people more than I had before.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The things you have shared are some practical ways for people that are going through cancer to actually deal with anxiety, to actually deal with depression, to actually deal with the isolation. And I think that is so important that you have given us these tidbits, these strategies and interventions that are going to go a long way in our community. Mental wellness for the culture is just an opportunity for us to talk to experts that have experienced things in their life, and they want to make sure that our entire culture gets better and grows and learns what it means to be mentally well. So I want to thank you for coming today and sharing that part of yourself, because that's very personal. Like you said, it was your personal journey that you've shared with us. So I have some quick fire questions. Are you ready?
Yes, let's go.
Your favorite juice?
Cranberry.
Oh, I like cranberry too. I'm a cranberry girl. With a little vodka. No, just cranberry.
Add a little something in it. Okay.
Your favorite cookie?
Oatmeal raisin with walnuts in it.
Oatmeal raisins and walnuts. You got to
Yeah,
have everything.
walnuts.
Really?
Yeah, well, there, Mrs. Fields is like one of my favorite cookies, and she has this Deborah Fields. It's called Deborah Special, and it's oatmeal raisin with walnuts. It's my favorite.
They used to have a Mrs. Fields down here, but I don't know if it's still in Miami. They have one in
Yeah,
Miami.
it's a rarity. I can find it when I go home to California, but I don't see it here.
What about your favorite cake?
Homemade pound cake would be my favorite.
Okay, that can be done. And your best vacation ever. What did you do? What is your experience? Why was it the best?
Best vacation ever was when I went to West Africa. I went to Ghana right after the day after Christmas last year. And it was my best vacation because, number one, I totally and completely unplugged. I typically don't do that, even when I'm on vacation, even in another country. I got my laptop, I'm working, but I completely unplugged. And when I got to Africa, the feeling of being home, although I'd never been there before, and just the sense of pride and dignity and that you saw with the people and that I felt being there, and I had an opportunity to visit one of the slave castles, which was like one of the last places. They call it the point of no return, where what the slaves saw right before they, were shipped out on the ships. And as I was walking through there, I felt two things. It was two completely different emotions, but it was crazy because the first one was immense sadness of what our people went through, just simple for greed, But the second thing I felt was an immense pride because I kept hearing in my head a T-shirt that I have that says, "We are the grandchildren of the slaves you couldn't kill." And I just kept hearing that. I was like, do African Americans realize that we are royalty, that we are strong. We're much stronger than what people want, folks to believe. We're here, and we survived. And we're here because our ancestors survived horrendous conditions. So that alone, that trip was very pivotal for me. And I'll actually be going back this year. I'll be leaving again the day after Christmas to go back. And,
I love it. I love it. It meant that much to you that you're going back. I love that.
Absolutely. It won't be this visit, but probably the next visit, I'm going to take my daughter because I think she needs to experience that.
I agree. She needs to experience it with you. That's going to be amazing.
Absolutely.
You are a survivor. You have survived many things, but you are a survivor of breast cancer. Thank you for coming on today and sharing your story with us, sharing your expertise with us. And you are always invited to come back to Mental Wellness for the Culture anytime you like. Thank you again. And we look forward to everyone liking, commenting, sharing, and letting us know how you feel about today's episode of Mental Wellness for the Culture. Thank you.
Thank you.